Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the garage. Gerald here with you, of course. Thanks for tuning in. If you like what you see, you like award season, you like movies, you like award seasons, you like movies that win awards, I talk about that shit literally all the time. Make sure you like and subscribe below. All right, the time has come. We are going to be doing my first ever for the 2026 Oscars Power Rankings, which is essentially my early predictions for the major categories. I'm going to do the 6 top-of-the-line categories today. I'll be giving you who I think would be nominated if it was happening right this second, and then I'll give you some alternates. So for film, or for picture, that'll be 20 movies. So I'll give you the 10 first that I think are going to be our Best Picture nominees as I'm sitting here on May the 8th. And then I'll give you the 10 alternates that are like in that conversation that could end up jumping in for one of those or could fall off the map or whatever. And I'll do the same thing for all the other categories, except it'll be 5 locked-in nominees and then 5 alternates. So it'll be 10 for each of those remaining 5 categories. Now look, I just want to say, nobody knows. I always record my first round in May before the Cannes Film Festival, which is next weekend, starts next weekend. So I am doing that. So I'm going to record this now. I'm going to get it out pre-Cannes. After Cannes, in early June probably, I will do another round that will most likely have been affected by what happened at the Cannes Film Festival and the reception that came out about those films that are in contention. Some of them will be mentioned on this video. And in some cases, if we've gotten to see footage or there's been new trailers released or clips from the performances or like whatever, that will be factored in as well. So it's important to point out, because people love to hit me in my comments that basically I'm wrong. And I'm not saying you're wrong for saying that, but what I am saying is that nobody fucking knows who's right or wrong at this point. It really won't start coming into focus, honestly, until the fall. And even then, it's still kind of a crapshoot. All right, Power Rankings. Let's pull it up. Best Picture. Here we go. We'll talk about those first. One Battle After Another, Paul Thomas Anderson. A lot of people have dropped this down. And in some cases, I've actually seen pundits have dropped it out of their top 10. I'm not saying it's going to win Best Picture. What these Power Rankings are the 10 or 5 when we get there most likely to receive a nomination. I don't see any reason yet why One Battle would not get a nomination. I just don't. Paul Thomas Anderson almost always receives nominations for his pictures. The only time it didn't happen, to my knowledge, was Punch Drunk Love and his first film. So like 8 out of 10 films have gotten top of the line nominations for him. He is a well-respected director who is kind of coming back to form here. Licorice Pizza was good, and that also received nominations, by the way. But a lot of people weren't like, oh my God, this is Phantom Thread or Boogie Nights or, Magnolia or whatever. It was just kind of like, all right, well, that was decent. But I think One Battle After Another is going to incorporate a lot of the older kind of tropes that we were used to with PTA while still telling an amazing story. And when you have actors like Leonardo DiCaprio, having his involvement is key. 10 films that Leonardo DiCaprio has starred in the last 20 years have been nominated for Best Picture. That's a pretty good stat, and he is a headlining performer that will have attention. There's also been a lot of attention paid to the supporting actresses in the film, and we'll get there in a second. But for my money, and I could be wrong, and I could actually end up changing this less than a month from now, but right now, as I'm in my seat right here, literally the only thing that gives me pause is the large budget for the film from Warner Brothers and the release date of, I think it's mid-September, maybe late September. But I don't necessarily know that you can take something out of the conversation because of the release date. If it comes out in September and it doesn't make back its budget or it doesn't make profit for Warner's and they don't push it because it's not making money, then you start to become concerned. But my point is that hasn't happened yet. So I have faith in PTA. And my friends do whatever they want to do. That's fine. I'm not saying they don't have faith in him. I'm just saying until something tells me to remove it, I'm not going to. And because of the ones involved right now, I think it's the most likely to receive a nomination. Now, it could be number 10 in the nomination list, but in terms of being the most likely to get a nomination, I think it's PTA's One Battle After Another. My number 2, I have to do Sinners. I did that video with my buddy Cody Derricks, and neither one of us mentioned Sinners. It was a couple weeks before the movie came out. And in my head, I love Ryan Coogler, and he's had success with Black Panther. I love Michael B. Jordan, who's been kind of eluded from the Oscars his whole career. But I just didn't think this, vampire period piece, even with success of The Substance and Nosferatu, I just didn't think for a split second back then, in March or whatever it was, that this would have been an Oscar player. However, now, and I did a whole video about this, by the way, so I won't go too far in depth on it. I do think Sinners is going to be a huge player, and I think it's going to receive probably 5 to 6 or even more Academy Award nominations. I'm going to talk about director here in a minute, but I think that's one of them. And I think Best Picture is a pretty surefire thing at this point. It's made a ton of money. Ryan Coogler is doing basically an entire press tour about his love of film and filmmaking and the history of Hollywood. And he's so charismatic and such a ambassador for cinema that I think it's going to go a long way too. So I think you got to put Sinners in your top 10 right now. It's probably going to end up being my number 1 most likely, depending on what happens with PTA's film there. Hamnet, I'm kind of sticking to my guns with this first video because, like I said, nobody knows and who cares. But I'm perplexed at why people are bumping this further down the list, or in some cases not even considering it. It's Chloe Zhao, who was the winning director for Nomadland. Well respected, has just a grandiose vision behind the camera, can film a landscape like nobody's business. This is a period film, okay? It's about a real life story about William Shakespeare and his wife. Jessie Buckley is a previous Oscar nominee. Paul Mescal is a previous Oscar nominee. So a lot of pedigree there. And apparently it follows the story of Shakespeare and his wife losing their child, losing their son, which ultimately resulted in the writing of the play Hamlet, which is, one of the biggest in the history of the world. So there's a little performative connection there too. Obviously, this is well before the art of cinema, but this is what they were doing back then. This was their cinema. There's going to be blow-up scenes. There's going to be a lot of crying. There's going to be emotionality. Jessie Buckley has been on the tip of everyone's tongue at the Academy in terms of being nominated or winning. She's so close a couple times. I don't know why people don't see it, but until, again, with just like the same thing with all of these, until something tells me otherwise, it's in my 10. So Hamnet's my 3rd right now. I'll run through a couple of these that I feel like are kind of no-brainers. Number 4 is Wicked for Good. Yeah, it's going to get nominations. What's it going to get? Is it going to get, it got 10 last year. I don't think it's going to get 10, but I could see a world where you're in the 4 to 5 or more for Wicked for Good. I do think Best Picture is probably going to fall here as well. I've also got high hopes for a couple other categories that weren't as well received for the original film. But I just think that if John M. Chu can nail the different tone of this movie, because if seeing the musical, I know that the tone of the second act is, frankly, for lack of a better way to put it, less fun than the first act, which is what we got earlier last year. So if he can nail that kind of transition, then they really are 2 different kinds of movies. One is almost an introduction to the world and, Glinda and Elphaba kind of coming together as friends and, realizing their place and how they kind of belong with each other as friends and supports for each other. But Wicked for Good, or Act 2 of the musical, is not that. It's more of them being torn apart. And it's much darker, and there's a lot of weird, soap opera-y shit in Act 2 as well, that if that's carefully presented to the audience, I feel good about it. I think it should be in there. I'm never going to bet against James Cameron. Just not going to do it. If it comes out and it's like a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes and everybody hates it, then I'll do it. But I'm not going to do it. It's going to look stunning. Absolutely breathtaking. I can already tell you. There's no way. We're going to see it and we're going to go, there's no way that's not a real person somewhere right there. That's how it's going to look. So digital effects, you can put it in the bank already, probably. But it's going to have that notoriety just because of the visual effects and the direction. It's going to have that notoriety immediately, okay? And then you're going to have a lot of actors involved, too, that have Oscar lineage now. So I'm never going to bet against James Cameron. Of course, he's going to be in my 10 for Fire and Ash. I currently have it at number 5. I've heard really, really, really good things about the rivals of Uzziah King. And I've got it at my number 6 right now. This is another vehicle as well possibly for Matthew McConaughey. Kurt Russell's in it. I've heard great things from a supporting actress standpoint for Angelina Lookingglass. Cole Sprouse is in it. It says, in rural Oklahoma, Kateri loses her mother and flees foster care. She reunites with her past foster parent, Uzziah King, who mentors her, revealing hidden skills. It says, facing devastating situations, Kateri relies on newfound strength to seek justice. Here's Angelina Lookingglass. Matthew McConaughey is Uzziah King. So, yeah. I feel good about this, especially seeing some of the receptions that people have seen this at the film festivals. Got a huge buzz, and McConaughey's been kind of tiptoeing around getting back into the Academy spotlight. He actually has another project this year, too, that could be The Lost Bus, I believe it's called, that also could be a player. But all the feedback I've heard about this movie is like it's such a crowd pleaser. It's so emotional with brilliant performances that's also timely and important. Sounds Oscar-y to me, kind of like I said with Hamden. It just sounds like Oscar material. So I'm sticking with Rivals of Undying King for now. I'm very excited to see this one. I think it just got distribution. Black Bear Pictures, they have produced and backed Oscar-nominated films before, pretty recently actually. Sing Sing. Now, of course, that was distributed by A24 and didn't go well. I mean, it went okay. I mean, they got 4 nominations, but you know what I mean. It didn't go as well as people thought it would. And also, The Imitation Game was a Black Bear film. So it's not the greatest studio to promote a film Oscar season, but at least it got distribution because that was an issue up until a couple weeks ago. So Rivals of Undying King is my 6. And Jay Kelly's my 7. We just got some stills there of Clooney, who's in that titular role. I do think this is a player for Adam Sandler as well. Possibly even some supporting roles that we'll talk about here in a minute. But the thing that I'm kind of weirded out about my predictions, but I mean, it could happen. But I think I'm going to end up shifting this around a little bit because my 7, 8, and 9 are all Netflix films. They're all going to be distributed by Netflix, which means they're going to have a very limited theatrical run, I would imagine, which annoys me. I do think Netflix is going to get 1 to 2 nominations. I don't know that they'll get 3. And I'm really just thinking logistically, so I have to step out of myself for these early predictions and just predict like the movie, what it sounds like, who's in it, the director. But when it comes to like the distribution and like the name attached to that plays into it too. And, a lot of times when you do your early predictions, films won't even have distribution in it. So these 3 do. Jay Kelly, I look at as a little more in Noah Baumbach's wheelhouse. It's not going to be white noise. It's going to be a little more Marriage Story. It's got some huge names in it, and it sounds like it's going to play on that kind of familial, comedic kind of nature, but it's also going to have a heft to it. I mean, what a cast. I'm looking at it right now. So Clooney, Sandler, Laura Dern, Oscar winner, for Baumbach, by the way. Greta Gerwig, his wife, and a freaking legend. So she's in it, the Oscars are going to notice that when they see her on there. Riley Keough, Billy Crudup, Patrick Wilson, Broadbent, Ela Fisher, Emily Mortimer. I mean, geez, dude. I mean, the casting award actually is something I need to do a predictions for too, because this could be in the mix for that too. The Ballad of a Small Player is not in a lot of people's 10 that I've seen. Edward Berger is getting to a point where he doesn't miss when it comes to Best Picture. Now, it's only 2. I realize that. But there's a trend for me in the awards industry with Edward Berger, with All Quiet on the Western Front, and then this past year with Conclave, and I think with Battle of a Small Player. So consensusly on the circuit, his films are nominated across multiple shows and bodies and critics groups. It's not just the Oscars. It's not just the BAFTAs. It's not even just a couple of them. It's like everywhere. And then they usually walk away with gold. I mean, even the Conclave cast winning SAG Ensemble was even a little bit of a surprise to us when that happened, at least based on how award season had been going for ANORA and whatever else. And then obviously it's a huge BAFTA player every year. I mean, Berger films are. So I just don't, kind of like I said earlier, I just don't know why I wouldn't put this in my 10. Now, there are some when we get past number 10 that are like, yeah, maybe they're a little more, they could sneak in there for Berger's film, but is Berger going to get the director nomination? Because that's been eluding him. Number 9 would be Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein for me right now. I see this, the reason I'm keeping it in my 10 for now, and it could change obviously, but I'm keeping it because I see it as Nosferatu last year. The same situation, the same type of film, I think, that gothic horror film, a period piece, with a seasoned veteran, almost alumni of the Academy in Guillermo del Toro. He's a darling that they freaking love, and they nominate almost every single time he does a movie. It's getting nominated. Even Nightmare Alley, that was pretty divisive, at least critically, got nominated. So last or a couple years ago, it was for animated film. But nonetheless, when he's in the mix with a project and he's at the helm, it's getting nominations. Now, Frankenstein will get nominations. It'll probably be like costumes, makeup, hair design, production design, perhaps. We've seen some stills from that look phenomenal. Score, who knows? Cinematography is all this shit's in the mix with Guillermo del Toro. But I just think that it's going to be all those great things from a technical standpoint and probably performance-wise also. Why wouldn't it get nominated for Best Picture? And conversely, why wouldn't it get nominated for Best Director? They've proven to us that they will rain down praise on Guillermo del Toro. And until I see the movie or something kind of makes me have pause about that, I think it's in the mix. And then my number 10 is Sentimental Value. I will tell you that whatever movie, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell you this now, I don't even care what it is. whatever movie wins the Palme d'Or, okay, at the Cannes Film Festival, if that movie is a neon film, I'm absolutely putting it in my top 10 for Best Picture. I don't even care what it is, okay? It could be the Julia Ducournau Alpha, and we know how weird her films can be. I don't care. That's going in. It's going in my 10 because of the history and the connection between those three things. The Palme d'Or, the Oscar nomination for Best Picture, and sometimes wins, and Neon Studios. They all go together. That's a trifecta that I will not bet against until it starts to become a trend the other direction. Right now, I think Sentimental Value is a frontrunner for the Palme. We'll see. I don't know. I haven't seen the movies. I don't know what their liking is gonna lean towards, but I think it's a good shot. Renate Razva, Stellan Skarsgård, Von Trier's the director. They were great in The Worst Person in the World. So you've got options for screenplay. I know Elle Fanning's in the conversation for supporting. Like, it's got a lot of stuff. It also has a Hollywood tie-in, or I should say an acting tie-in, because I think Stellan Skarsgård is a film director, I believe, and Renate Razva is an actress that's like retired from acting, and he wants her to come back to be in one of his movies or something like that. So it could be very timely for the Academy as well, and there's a lot of international members, don't forget. So I feel good about Sentimental Value. I've got it barely right there. I also don't know if this is going to count as an international film or not. I think over 50% of the film has to be in non-English language in order to be submitted by that country for international film. So I need an international representation in my 10, which I'm also going to do when my predictions start to take form. Right now, it's Sentimental Value as that international film. But if it's not considered international, then I'll have to rethink that. All right, and then real quick, let me just show you these near misses for Best Picture, and I'll just run through them real quick. So my number 11 would be No Other Choice by Park Chan-wook. That is another international pick. That would obviously be an international one that I'm probably going to swap out if Sentimental Value doesn't end up working out to have that international representation. Also, I said this when I had my draft with Matt and Jonathan, but I think that Park Chan-wook's moment is coming. Like, he's got to get something from the U.S., from the Academy, especially with everything going on in the news right now with the tariffs and all that crap. Like, let's award this guy, or at least recognize him in his films. So a couple snubs in the past that, frankly, I'm still not over. Anne Lee is the Mona Fastvold directed film that she wrote with Brady Corbet. I'm keeping that pretty high in my predictions just because of the success of The Brutalist, honestly. This might look totally different. It might be a completely different tone because it's Fastvold, not Corbet, directing it. But we know the source material, or the dialogue, per se, is going to be similar because they were also the writing team on The Brutalist. So it's probably going to be a very important story, and it sounds like a really juicy role for Amanda Seyfried, too. So, I'm looking like the costumes, the cinematography, all that shit's probably going to be in play with this movie. And she's a female filmmaker, so let's see how it turns out, but I would be thrilled for Fastvold. My number 13 is Caught Stealing. That's the Darren Aronofsky film. I think this film's going to be a huge player, but I don't know about picture. And the reason I say that is because Aronofsky's films are always in the mix, usually for performances, honestly. But when it comes to Best Picture, not always. So how weird is this thing going to be? You know what I mean? That's going to really what it comes down to with him as a filmmaker. My number 14 is The Life of Chuck, which a lot of people have seen, and a lot of people actually have it in their 10 for Best Picture, which is fine, and actually I would love that because I love Mike Flanagan. He's traditionally a horror director, and this is not a horror movie. This is like a life reflection character study, is what I've been told. I do think Mark Hamill is probably maybe the biggest push from this film, at least based on what I've heard so far, for top-of-the-line stuff. But I've got it at number 14 right now. It's based on Stephen King's source material, which doesn't always flourish at the Academy Awards, but maybe adapted screenplay, that kind of thing could be in play. Number 15 is Marty Supreme. I think this is one that's in the mix big time for performances, most notably Timothée Chalamet. I also see possibly supporting for like Gwyneth Paltrow. Director for, I don't know. I know I mentioned how I'm having trouble kind of being sold on that. The Safdie brothers splitting up. I mean, we saw what happens when the Coen brothers split up. I'm not saying they won't make great films, including The Smashing Machine from the other one, but I don't know yet. I just don't know, so I want to wait and see. I do have faith in Timothée Chalamet, and I think it's going to probably be a bonkers. I've heard comparisons to The Wolf of Wall Street, which is not what I was expecting, and even though that movie was kind of frantically all over the place, it did receive Oscar nominations, so let's see how it turns out. It's a Christmas Day release, which is a huge plus when you're doing Oscar predictions, but so was The Iron Claw. My number 16 is After the Hunt. That's the Luca Guadagnino film. The only reason this one's not bumped up further for me in Best Picture, and when we get there for Best Director, is because they've been beating my dude up. on the awards circuit, the Oscars have. He is just on a drought. Now, is this going to be the film to break that drought and to make him an Academy Award like, oh my God, his name's everywhere? He's on stage, he's doing, on the circuit, he's winning precursors. I mean, I don't know. I would love it, but it does sound a little like scandalous, kind of like a sexual love affair kind of situation going on with Julia Roberts, Andrew Garfield, Io Debris in the mix somehow. So it sounds a little, I won't say like queer Guadagnino, but it does sound like kind of not as like artsy or auteur as a movie like Call Me By Your Name was, which he did have success with the Academy, but has not since. So I don't know where this is going to fall. And I also keep telling myself if Challengers blanked last year, and I know that was a youthful film full of energy, which doesn't always speak to the Academy. But I just keep telling myself, how could Challengers blank, which for my money is one of the best movies I've seen in the last like 10 years. But then this movie about a scandalous college affair is the one that breaks him through. Now, maybe it will, but I just am having trouble answering that question to myself. So right now I have it as a near miss. Deliver Me From Nowhere, I think, is a player in terms of performances, but not necessarily for film, although almost every single year it's becoming apparent that you need to have a music biopic in the mix for Best Picture. And in looking at my list, I don't really, unless you want to count Sinners and the musicality that's in that film, because music's a huge part of it, the blues specifically. That could take that spot, and I've obviously have it doing that. But if they want to do a true music biopic, and not just a movie with music, then it's probably going to be Deliver Me From Nowhere. And honestly, unless something else emerges on the scene or kind of gets bumped up in superiority throughout the circuit, starts winning or whatever, my representation is probably going to be Deliver Me From Nowhere. But all 20 of these movies, honestly, with the exception of Sinners that I've already seen, all of these are just kind of like, I'm waiting to see what the reception is. So right now, it falls a little further down for me. I'm going to be probably the only person on Earth to end up putting Eleanor the Great in my 10 for Best Picture, but I'm holding on to it on my bench, as you see. It's my number 18 because I want to put it in my 10 for Best Picture. To me, it screams a Bradley Cooper directed film, Mirror, with Scarlett Johansson in that direction role. I don't think she's in the movie as an actress, but she's directing it. And June Squibb, 95 years old, a Hollywood literal legend among us, is the star. And she gets to be the centerpiece of this film that sounds like it's going to be a self-reflection, kind of like Life of Chuck, on her at the end of her life, which mirrors her actual life, because I hope she lives for many, many more years. But when you get to be 95, you start to probably tell yourself, like, this could be it. I mean, 95 is old. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. I just mean that like factually. So I think that I always connect to, and I think the Academy often connects to, a filmmaker or an actor that's telling a story from an entertainment perspective that mirrors something that they're going through in their life. That happens often where it's life imitating art. And you've heard that term thrown around. When that happens, the Academy tends to at least pay attention. And Eleanor the Great could be another one of those situations that I'm honestly surprised that just a lot of people really aren't talking about it. It's kind of like just there. But I think it could be a huge player if it turns out being well received, and if Scarlett Johansson can nail that directorial debut, because believe me, they love her too. Multiple nominee. It would be great for the Academy too, I think. Number 19 is Begonia. A lot of people have Begonia in their top 10. I'm waiting to see. Lanthimos is one of my favorite filmmakers. I don't want to doubt him. I'm not saying I'm doubting him. I'm going to probably love the friggin' movie. But it sounds a little topical in terms of like the medical professional or somebody that like leads a medical insurance company or something like that, played by Emma Stone. And Jesse Plemons, they kidnap her, shave her head or whatever. They think she's an alien. Now, whatever you want to say, like, it's probably going to be really good. But what I just told you, that sounds fucking weird. Like, that doesn't sound, But then I stop and I go, well, yeah, but if I just tell you Poor Things real quick, Poor Things, Willem Dafoe, basically does a Frankenstein version of his Frankenstein, and it's a girl, it's Emma Stone, and he puts the brain of an infant in her head, and she walks around the earth as a baby in an adult's body. That also doesn't sound Academy friendly, but guess what? It was probably number 2 that year at the Academy Awards. So I don't know, man. Begonia is a weird one for me because we have very little to go on too, by the way. Like, very little has been shown, which also has me a little reluctant about it. I think it probably should be higher, but I did want to keep it on my bench because I want it to be one of the early ones that I mentioned, because I think there is a strong possibility, if for no other reason, when Lanthimos and Emma Stone get together. It's almost a home run every single time. Kinds of Kindness is maybe the only option that didn't work out. So I think Begonia's in the mix, but right now I have it a little further down. And then Die My Love, which is one of the films that's going to be premiering at Cannes next week. No trailer yet, a couple stills of Jennifer Lawrence, that Robert Pattinson's also in it. So two kind of younger industry darlings, although Pattinson still shockingly has not received an Academy Award for any nomination for anything. I want it to be Oscar worthy, but I also know that Lynn Ramsey's films, we need to talk about Kevin, got a little bit of notoriety that year from the Academy, but other than that, and even that film, really, they just are very, they challenge us because the stories are being told through the characters or the protagonist, or in some cases the antagonist's POV. And it's like a very, I love it, but it's a very blended version of storytelling that, I don't know, it's just historically it doesn't scream like something that they would go for, but we'll see. And I'm really excited to see it. So Die My Love would round out my 20. This is going to change. Everybody, please remain calm. There's probably a movie missing on here that should be on here. I want to hear about it in the comments because honestly, I use those too when I'm putting spreadsheets together and all that stuff. Yeah, let's shift to lead actress. I've talked about most of the movies now. Best Picture is usually the longest section of these videos. So now I'll just kind of run through them unless it's a movie I haven't talked about yet. So my number one from After the Hunt, which is the Luca Guadagnino film, is Julia Roberts. I think this is probably 80% of people's number one right now. She's coming back. This is an industry veteran that is on the all-star team. And she's coming back to the Academy Awards with this role, I think. Again, if it's too scandalous, queer type Guadagnino, then maybe not. But even then, Daniel Craig was in the mix until the last second for an actor nomination. So even regardless of the film's kind of tone, if her performance is as good as it's been in some of the other ones that have gotten Oscar notoriety, then I feel good about Julia Roberts. I've got her number one. Jessie Buckley, I talked about it before, from Hamnet. I don't know why people aren't doing it. I mean, I just feel like she's a previous nominee that's going to have the opportunity to really showcase her acting talent in this movie. And, they're going to respond to that, I think. I've also got Renate Rosva from Sentimental Value. I talked about that one a little bit already. I feel like the tortured kind of daughter and the broken father-daughter relationship that we're going to get in the film, and her being an actress in the movie, her character, could go a long way with that kind of movie connection. They love that. So, and she missed out on some stuff that she should have gotten some shout outs for. So let's just be honest. She got a BAFTA nomination for the worst person in the world. She won the Cannes Acting Award. What are we doing? So maybe it's for Sentimental Value. Rose Byrne for If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. I'm banking on this being probably that movie's sole nomination. And that happens occasionally where a performance is so good that it's the only thing that really is lifted up all award season. Hell, you can go back as recent as Judy, when Renee Zellweger pretty much swept the season that year. The movie itself and the techs involved didn't really get a lot of love on the circuit, a few here and there, but Renee Zellweger was a constant through line that award season because it was just a phenomenal, undeniable performance, and the movie was just kind of okay to most people. I think Rose Byrne could be on a similar path with a very important movie. It sounds like about motherhood and dealing with postpartum, and we've seen that theme in films, whether even if you're talking about The Wild Robot, honestly, from an animated standpoint. But Night Bitch I thought was phenomenal. I've loved Amy Adams in that, and I thought she was Oscar worthy in that film last year. But that story is kind of resurging in Hollywood, and it's an important thing that people should know about. And if these actors can tell these stories, and the filmmakers, then I'm all for it. And I love Rose Byrne, and she's been around for so long and done so much good stuff. Think about Zoe Saldana last year. Similar situation where Rose Byrne is always in the mix in different genres of film too. So she's everywhere, and I have heard that she's absolutely phenomenal in that film. And everybody that has seen it, that's given a review, I haven't seen one person say anything negative about Rose Byrne's performance. Now, that could change, as you know, but right now she's in my 5. And then I have to put Cynthia Erivo in there. I don't feel great about that one. I really don't. It could go so many different ways, man, with Wicked for Good. It could be a Best Picture nominee and some text, or it could be Best Picture nominee and 5 or 6 other things that, is a really good haul for a sequel. I think if that second thing happens, Cynthia Erivo and probably Grande also are in the mix again. Knowing what I know about Act 2, I think Erivo's chances to win may be even less with Act 2 because it is a bit of a Glinda spotlight in Act 2. In fact, there's been some chatter that it could be Ariana Grande as lead and Erivo as supporting in the second half of the musical, and that actually is a pretty valid argument. But I think they're going to leave it the way it is, and it's probably going to honestly be a co-lead situation, which is really what it was in the first movie too. But yeah, I think Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are in the mix. I'm going to leave them. Again, there's no reason for me to not do that right now, at least until I see the movie and how that alphabet character is played. I mean, we just don't know. So there's no reason not to predict her right now. And then, like I said, leaving June Squibb on my bench. I'm leaving Eleanor the Great in the mix. First of all, I want to be one of the very few pundits talking about that movie. Let's pump that movie up, especially if it ends up being great. We'll find out as it's premiering at Cannes next week also. But yeah, June Squibb, I mean, one of the matriarchs of Hollywood. I mean, why not? I mean, it would be a great story. Could you imagine June Squibb and Scarlett Johansson on the press tour during award season? Oh my God. I've never tried to book a celebrity interview for my channel, but that might be the moment, I'll tell you. Jennifer Lawrence for Die My Love, about 10 years or so. I guess maybe Joy was the last movie that she was kind of in the conversation for awards. I don't even have the year on that, but it's been a minute. And I know she had stuff going on in her personal life and had to take care of that. And, she's been doing like romantic comedies, which actually were all really good, action movies. But she's never been like Don't Look Up. She hasn't been like, she was in the Oscar conversation like every movie she did for like 5 years. And then kind of after Joy, it kind of like she did other stuff, which is great. But now she's working with Lynn Ramsey, an acclaimed filmmaker. I think she could very easily be in the final 5. Right now, I've got her just shy. Same thing can be said for Emma Stone. Anytime, it's really two parts to this. Anytime Emma Stone's in a movie, yes, she's one of the best alive. But anytime she's in a Lanthimos movie, hell yes, double yes, because it's like, oh my God, they, The Favorite, Poor Things. I mean, they're fucking all over that shit. So when it comes to Begonia, this could be another one like Rose Byrne, actually, where the performance and maybe a couple texts here and there, but not necessarily the movie director or whatever. Emma Stone could be in the mix because it's Emma Stone, all right? And also, there was a transformation, right? She shaved her head and like she looks different, and she's probably going through a lot of emotions as being kidnapped and like. So, when actors transform themselves, and by that I mean like appearance and not always necessarily with makeup, the Academy likes that shit. I mean, they take notice, and usually it's well deserved because it's, a performance that requires a lot of the actor. So it could be in the mix. And then one that we haven't talked about yet is Tessa Thompson in Hedda. The film sounds juicy. Amazon MGM is going to be distributing it. So are they going to push it? And if so, are they going to push Tessa Thompson? The juiciness of the role specifically, and it's directed by Nia DaCosta, by the way, which kind of like what I said about Jennifer Lawrence a minute ago. She's, DaCosta's been doing like other genre type stuff. This could be, you're back now. You're back at the Academy where you belong now. But it says it's a modern reimagining, which modern reimagining has me kind of interested too, of a 1891 play. So I don't know if maybe it's not based on a true story. It's an 1891 play called Gabler, and it follows Hedda, the daughter of a general who finds herself trapped in a marriage that she doesn't desire and a house she doesn't want. Her life becomes even more complicated when an ex-lover enters her life. So it sounds very like there could be a lot of different types of scenes and acting that could go into that role. Amanda Seyfried would round out my 10 for Ann Lee. She got nominated for Mank, and that was a movie that I did not like very much, so I want her to get nominated for a film that really is deserving of her, frankly, that I enjoy. And I think Ann Lee, like I talked about Fast Fold and Courbet earlier, and their success with The Brutalist, Amanda could ride that wave for sure. I think any one of these that you're looking in this 5 through 10 or 6 through 10 could very easily be nominated next year. Again, we have no fucking clue, guys. But these are the 10 that I feel the best about. Let's just put it that way. Same thing will be said for lead actor as we get over there. I don't like that my 5 is so white, lead actor, but man, I don't know. That's going to probably switch up a little bit. I just don't like that. Prediction so white. Hashtag. Let's see. So Timothée Chalamet for Marty Supreme. I mean, what else? Do I have to say anything else? I mean, multiple nominee. He's always in the conversation, always gives his all. Had that speech at the SAGs about greatness and wanting to achieve it, and I believe him. And I think every time he gets on set and gets into character, he's trying to be the best that's ever done what he's doing. That's what I think. And I think as film fans, we should all want our actors to do that, because then we're going to get the best product. I think he's got a nomination regardless of anything else with the film, which I do think is probably going to get other stuff. But I think Marty Supreme, you can pencil in right now as a nomination for Timmy. And then we'll see how the win tracks on the circuit when we get there. Leo, same thing. Some people taking Leo out because of the trailer. I'm like, what? I thought he was freaking phenomenal. I think he could get nominated for his acting in the trailer. 2.5 minutes. The dude is like on fire, okay? And he much like Timmy, shows up and connects to that character, freaking locks in, okay? And he's one of the best alive, and I just don't have a reason to not predict him to get nominated for the Academy Award. I just don't. You know, the film comes out in September. The budget is what it is. If it doesn't make the money, if WB doesn't push it, and blah, 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 then yeah, of course I'll change it. But right now in May, on paper, he's nominated. So I'm putting Leo in there. Paul Mescal for Hamnet. I didn't know supporting or lead. I've got him in lead right now. Previous Oscar nominee, very recently actually. And there was even talk about him maybe getting nominated for Gladiator 2 because the field was kind of shallow. I've got him in here. You know, he's playing Shakespeare and he loses his son, writes one of the most popular plays of all time in the film. There's going to be flashbacks, I think, or different timelines where it's him courting Jessie Buckley, and then there's another timeline where it's, you know, after they've lost their son. So he's going to be different range for that character. So I feel good about Mescal getting another nomination very soon in his career, and it could be as early as this year with Hamnet. Like I said, I'm kind of going all in on Hamnet right now as being a huge player with a lot of stuff. So he would be one of the people in the mix there. On a podcast episode I did with my buddy Matt Neglia and Fuji, I said that I have this feeling that if Colin Farrell is in the mix for an Academy-worthy picture, an Oscar Beatty film, he's not only going to get nominated, he might win. As I'm sitting here on May the 8th, I think Colin Farrell in the Edward Berger film, Ballad of a Small Player, could be our next lead actor winner. In terms of receiving a nomination, I've got him at number 4, but literally these are all tied because we don't know the hell what we're talking about. I think it's more likely that like Timmy and Leo would get nominated. Okay, it's like a no-brainer that they get nominated, right? To me, even though I would tend to predict Colin Farrell to win the Oscar, that's a hunch. That's me going on a feeling. He has to get nominated first, right? So I have him at number 4 to get nominated just because it is going to depend on the movie. It's going to depend on the tone of the film, the reception. You know, does he get nominated other places? How well revered is it? It's going to depend on stuff. Whereas the name Timothée Chalamet, and especially in a biopic role, and the name Leonardo DiCaprio with PTA, all that shit together is nomination to me. Colin Farrell's a little bit of a question mark. But I'm just throwing this out there really, really, really early that if Colin Farrell can manage, whether it's 4th or whatever it is, to get nominated in that lead actor group this year, I have this weird feeling that he will win an Academy Award. If it's not for this Berger film, I think in the next 2 to 3 years, I feel like, and again, this is literally just a feeling that I have, but I feel like they want to give him an Oscar. The votes just haven't panned out, whether it's for Banshees or whatever. They want to do it, though. And he's been around for a long, long time. It's not like he's a newcomer like some of these other faces. Mescal, Chalamet, Butler, which I'm going to talk about in a second. So, yeah, just perk up if Colin Farrell gets nominated, because then I'm going to be like, oh, man, do I stick on this train? I did it with Mikey, though, with ANORA, so, we'll see. Austin Butler for Caught Stealing would round out my 5 to be nominated for lead actor. I think it's because it's an Aronofsky film and because Butler's already getting nominated. I mean, he's only, his resume is getting longer now, but he's just really started in the industry like a few years ago and was getting nominations out of the gate and winning BAFTAs and everything else. And he's very like hot in Hollywood, like very on demand right now. And I just see him as somebody that's going to be a multiple nominee, similar to Timmy, honestly. And they're going to follow a very similar trajectory, and eventually he's going to get the win. I see him being nominated here because you got Mickey Rourke for The Wrestler. You have Natalie Portman for Black Swan. The most recent one was Brendan Fraser for The Whale. Lead performances in Aronofsky films get nominations. Not every single time, I understand that. But there's a pattern of it happening regularly. Let's just say it that way. So Austin Butler is another one like Timmy who just is dedicated to what he's doing. And he's got Aronofsky behind the camera, who often directs Oscar-nominated performances. I feel good about it, with the exception of all these dudes being white and young. Other than that, I feel pretty good about it. There's your music biopic representation. My number 6 is Jeremy Allen White from Deliver Me From Nowhere. He's playing Bruce Springsteen. It's a music biopic. He's going to be singing his own songs, etc. What else do you need me to say? He's in the mix. Michael B. Jordan is in the mix for Sinners. I would love this nomination, actually. I would absolutely love it. He's playing 2 roles in that film. The 2 brothers, and they're different guys, and it's seamless. It's flawless. He is so good at I don't see Michael B. Jordan switching personalities. I see Smoke or Stack, whoever it is. Some cases on the same scene together, obviously with technology, but you know what I mean. So he's so good in it, man. And he's a young one. He's a young guy too. George Clooney's got to be in the mix for Jay Kelly. Adam Driver got nominated for Marriage Story. It's Baumbach screenplay. I don't know. Clooney is one of the old school Hollywood. So most of the ones, with the exception of Leo and my 5, are younger dudes. So are they going to mix in some of the old Hollywood? Perhaps. Another one that could be borderline old Hollywood as well is Matthew McConaughey. He's at my 9 right now for Rivals of Zia King. I've already talked about that one. I feel like that could be a tremendous springboard for his campaign this year. And then I've got Oscar Isaac at my 10 for Frankenstein. Another Guillermo del Toro gothic horror film that's also a classic story. And Isaac, Sally Hawkins got a nomination for The Shape of Water. And there's other examples too. I think that he's an actor that I'm surprised doesn't have more Oscar notoriety. Oscar Isaac, no pun intended. See what I did there? His name's Oscar. Oh my God. All right, let's run through supporting actress real quick. My power rankings for that are going to start with Ariana Grande, Wicked for Good. Yeah, she was actually my winner last year. I think if you guys follow my channel, you probably know that, but I was lauding for her, campaigning for her literally all season. I can't believe she didn't win one goddamn televised award. That still haunts me nightly. I do think she's going to get nominated for Wicked for Good because if for no other reason, it's going to be all that same shit that I loved, obviously, in the first one and that I was pumping up. But it's more nuanced. It's more layered, her character of Glinda. She has more to do. She has a darker side. Like, if Ariana does what I think she can do, on top of being the amazing singer that she is at the musical numbers, then she's easily in for a nomination. Now, when it comes down to a win, we'll have to see how it plays out throughout the season and who she's up against. But right now, I think that's a no-brainer. I had to pick between Regina Hall and Teyana Taylor. But right now, I've got Regina Hall in for being nominated for supporting actress for One Battle After Another. I've heard that maybe her screen time is not as you would hope for a Oscar nominee. But then I also tell myself, well, they love Regina Hall and they love Isabella Rossellini. And she got nominated for Conclave and she was in 2 scenes. So, what are you going to do? You don't know. I get the argument that, I understand the argument. I frankly agree with it because it took me a while to put Rossellini in my predictions last season. So, but right now I've got Regina Hall in there. Gwyneth Paltrow, I think I might be the only one putting her this high. I haven't seen a lot of people really putting her highly up, but this is another actress that I know is really in the industry. Like, they love her. Like, she's in the inside. She knows everybody. She's, So that, and then also much like Julia Roberts, a very similar situation. She was in these Oscar movies. She was a player for several years and then kind of went away at least from Oscar stuff. So could she be back here? So I feel good about it. And then Emily Blunt for The Smashing Machine. I'm sold on the trailer. Not so much with The Rock. As you saw, I didn't have him in my 20 for lead actor. He's probably right outside that 20 though. But not because The Rock's performance looked bad in it. I just don't see the Academy nominating for the first dramatic role that he's done, and he's a WWE superstar. I just don't see them doing that. Now, they could surprise me and do it, and that'd be great. But I just don't see it happening. Now, Emily Blunt, on the other hand, is multiple nominated actress and always at the top of her game, and she looked freaking great in that trailer. A bit of a transformative performance for her, too, it looks like. And then I'm going to go ahead and put J-Lo in here for Kiss of the Spider-Woman because we got to get her nominated, guys. Oh my God, I can't believe she didn't get in for Hustlers a few years ago. It's crazy to me. And I've heard that in Kiss of the Spider-Woman, actually my friend Cody told me that it's basically a musical performance. There's she's not talking or any dialogue or whatever, which could hurt in terms of that, where they see it and they go, well, is that even an acting performance? She's just singing. But I do feel like there's going to be enough depth to the character that it's also going to come through in the singing. It's like when you have a musical, And then my near misses here, I have Iowa Debris from After the Hunt, a young up-and-comer. I think it might be too soon in her career to receive that first Oscar nomination, but I do know it's coming for her. She's also in Ella McKay later this year. It could happen. It depends on, like I said already, is it like Queer Guadagnino or is it like Call Me By Your Name Guadagnino? It's going to depend. Even Bones and All had a really juicy role. I can remember I had Taylor Russell early in my predictions for that movie. And then when I saw it, I'm like, well, never mind. They're not going to do this. The Oscars aren't going to do this. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Angelina Looking Glass will probably move up. I haven't seen anything from that movie. I haven't seen the performance, and I don't frankly know her work. So I can't really speak to it. But folks that have seen it and have seen her are praising it over the moon for her performance. I put Jamie Lee Curtis in here on the bench because I don't want to do this, but I'm going to tell you guys I told you so. Jamie Lee, I said it with Gwyneth Paltrow a minute ago, if she can get nominated for and win for basically comic relief in Everything Everywhere All at Once, anything's possible. She was in the mix for The Last Showgirl, a movie nobody even saw. pre-Oscars. We'll see. I think that Jamie Lee Curtis is a matriarch of Hollywood. Everybody loves her. She's worked with practically everybody over the age of like 20 in Hollywood. And when it comes to vote getting, popular votes, if you will, it's always a possibility with Jamie Lee Curtis. She's going to be an Ella McKay. She's at my number 8. My number 9 is Margaret Qualley, and then my number 10 is Hunter Schafer. These are 2 of my wish list items. However, I would not put them in my predictions if I didn't think they were possible. These are 2 women that I am floored by from an acting standpoint. They're young, obviously, but every time I see them pop up and I'm just watching them act, I'm floored. They're so good at what they're doing. Margaret Qualley, in my opinion, was a snub for The Substance for supporting last year. It's really a co-lead in that movie, and it's a 1-2 punch with Demi Moore. This could be some redemption for that, I think. Blue Moon is a movie that's based on a true story about the writing of the musical Oklahoma in the 50s, I believe. And it's directed by Richard Linklater, who's also in the conversation for a second film that other people have been mentioning. I think Blue Moon sounds a little more Oscar-y, depending on who distributes it and what studio does that, and if Linklater's on the tour. If he's pushing 2 films, that might be hard to sell. Which one's the one? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I've got it low in my list right now, but I'm really doing it based on the level of talent that I've seen from Margaret Qualley and the fact that she should have been in last year. Hunter Schafer is a trans actress, which would be huge, by the way, to have that representation, especially after all that Amelia Perez bullshit and controversy with Gascon last season. But on top of all that, another one that I'm like, oh my God, Euphoria, Cuckoo, even the Hunger Games prequel, she was phenomenal in a very small role. So in Mother Mary, she has a supporting part that sounds pretty juicy in her, where she's going to be in the cast there. It also stars Anne Hathaway, and it's directed by David Lowery. I think it's being distributed by A24, which could be good, could be bad. Flip a coin, I don't know. But I have high hopes for Hunter Schafer, and I don't think really that it's going to happen this year. But when I was filling out my 10, like my 8, 9, and 10, I was like, I don't think any of these are going to happen. So what's the point? I'm just going to put the 8, 9, and 10 that could happen and a couple that I would really like to see happen. So we'll see. I don't think it's a huge probability, but I would love to see it, and she's a phenomenal actress that is going to come sooner than later. Looking at supporting actor real quick, Adam Sandler and Jay Kelly is my number 1. It hasn't happened for him yet, and a lot of people may say, well, he's not going to get the Oscar nomination. He's the Happy Madison guy, Happy Gilmore, and they're not going to do it. SNL, this, that, but I think that there's going to be a performance that is not going to be all him. Like Uncut Gems was frankly just Sandler, you know what I mean? And what I mean by that is like he's going to be in a supporting role where he can make the cast better, make the movie better. Adam Sandler, rare situations, is in a supporting role. He is almost always the leading man in the movies, whether it's a comedy or whatever. This is not the case. I've heard that he is supporting basically to George Clooney, along with a lot of other supporting characters in the movie. So can he be the standout in that movie, the standout supporting character? I think so. And if he can, that may speak louder to the Academy voters than him being the sole lead performer, because then you have to go, is your lead performance on par with or outselling the other lead performances from the other movies? When you're in a supporting cast of characters, and this is a big one, as I told you earlier, the cast list, can you stand out with that group in that movie? And I think he will, and I think if he does, he could be getting a nomination. Stellan Skarsgård, I mentioned he plays a filmmaker. He's a freaking legend, so I could see that happening very easily. Jeremy Strong for Deliver Me From Nowhere. There was a surprise nomination in a way for when he got nominated for The Apprentice in supporting. And, Clarence Macklin missed for Sing as a whole thing, but I did love Jeremy Strong in The Apprentice. I did think he was phenomenal in it. And I think this could be another situation where the Oscar career, like that Academy tour of your career, the years when you're there almost every year, could be happening right now for Jeremy Strong. We could be in it. The Apprentice, Deliver Me From Nowhere. What is it next year? It's like the next 5 or 6 years, Jeremy Strong is nominated or in a movie that's nominated like every year. And I think that could be where we're headed because he's such a phenomenal actor. Succession, of course, but I mean, he blew me away in The Apprentice, and he's been great in everything he's in. And he has that beautiful personal connection to Hollywood, going to the Oscars as a kid because he loved the movie so much. And now he's at the Oscars as a performer. It's a beautiful thing. I've also got Andrew Garfield in there for After the Hunt because this is another one that I just feel like he's always kind of in the mix, you know, and he's gotten snubbed in the past for supporting performances that were like should be war crimes that he didn't make it in. After The Hunt, depending on how pivotal his role is, and by pivotal I mean the performance that he gives, how much of a spotlight is on it, because it's going to take a lot, and obviously in a Guadagnino film, because they keep passing over all these brilliant performances. All three of the performances in Challengers were Oscar worthy. Then you had Daniel Craig, who was like in the 5 probably until like a week before the Oscars, and he got snubbed. So they keep passing over these performances in these Guadagnino films. So Julia Roberts, I think, is a really, really good shot. So what else is it going to take to get another performance nominated in that film? And I think if anybody can do it and has the chops to do it, especially being a previous nominee, it could be Andrew Garfield. And then, like I said earlier, I think Mark Hamill could be the push for Life of Chuck. I mean, dude, it's Luke Skywalker. You know, the Star Wars connection, the fan base that would come over for him, man, to the Academy if he got nominated. Can you imagine that? Like, how many people probably have never even watched an Oscar ceremony if Mark Hamill gets nominated that would be tuning in? Like, I'm not trying to simplify his performance or the possibility there, but that's really what it says to me on like a larger scale, is like it could mean a lot more than just the movie. And I think that's huge too from like a pop culture standpoint. But also Mark Hamill's a great actor, and he's done a lot of great things, obviously, outside of Star Wars that he should be recognized and never has been. And I think this could be one of those lifetime, if you want, or life nominations, if you will. But I also can only imagine he's going to be phenomenal in The Life of Chuck. And those that have seen it says that he is. He kind of plays that fatherly, like, narrator almost to the story that's kind of happening for us. And I've seen a couple clips of him as an older man, and so the makeup's involved there. When the actor's transformed, sometimes a nomination comes along with that. And by sometimes, I mean frequently. So in this case, it would be the supporting and not the lead, because that's Hiddleston. But let's see what happens. Right now, I've got Mark Hamill in the 5 for Life of Chuck. I don't know what else that movie will get. I'm thinking maybe adapted to screenplay. It is a player for picture, as you saw. I had it there, but I just don't feel super, super confident about that. But I do feel confident about Mark Hamill. Speaking of, we'll say not feeling confident for my 6 through 10, but here they are. Jonathan Bailey, Wicked for Good. You know, that role is drastically more in part 2 of Wicked, the musical. So Bailey received the surprise nomination at the SAGs. I believe it was the SAGs, right? Where he got the supporting actor nomination. But he was good in it. It was just not as prominent as he's going to be in For Good in Act 2. So if he was getting nominations for that already, and I'm not saying it was Academy Awards, I realize that, but if he was already getting nominations on the circuit from industry people for a role that was pretty small in the first one, what's going to happen with the second one? Because it is a much more beefed up role for that character. So I feel good about Jonathan Bailey's chances. Sean Penn, for One Battle After Another, he's had a little bit of controversy in the public eye that could hurt him, but I'm also going on the fact that he's just a powerhouse actor that's a multiple nominee. Would he even show up to the ceremony if he got nominated? Probably not. You know, I don't know, but I just think that his performance is going to be one that you're going to go, man, this guy can fucking act, you know, and it might be so powerful that it gets enough votes to get in there. Right now, I've got it as a near miss. I would love, love, love to see Delroy Lindo get nominated, really for anything, let's be honest, but definitely for Sinners from this year. One of the biggest snubs I haven't gotten over is him getting snubbed for Da 5 Bloods, the Spike Lee film from like 4 or 5 years ago, and I can't believe he didn't get in there. But he's a veteran, seasoned actor that, you know, reminds me of like the Lou Gossets of the world, and, you know, the Danny Glovers of the world, like the real like grandfatherly like figures that can sit you down and tell you about life, you know. And I get that vibe from him almost every single time I see him. And in this setting, it was beautiful because he was like a blues legend in that community, and he loved drinking, let's just say. But such a passionate performance. And he also had a nice bit of comic relief in the film and brought levity to Sinners, I thought. Very memorable performance, but kind of like Haley Steinfeld in that movie too. I just don't know if any performance in that movie outside of Michael B. Jordan's is enough. Now, when it comes to best casting, I think we could be looking at that, and I'll get into those predictions when the time comes. But, you know, best casting could be a Sinners player just because of Lindo and Steinfeld and others. But are any one, kind of like I was saying with Adam Sandler, who's at my number 1 right now, are any of those supporting performers in that film so much more elevated and outshine the other ones? And I don't know that that's the case for Lindo or anybody else in that movie. I think it's more of an ensemble. And you can make the argument for Michael B. Jordan, because obviously he's front and center, you know, 80% of the film. But Otherwise, I don't know. I would love it, and I have him on my bench just because. And I talked about Blue Moon earlier. So I think Andrew Scott is Richard Rodgers, who is credited for writing Oklahoma, and Ethan Hawke plays his gay lover that they're estranged, I think. And they were collaborators on it initially, but then Rodgers ended up getting all the accolades for the musical. And I think that's kind of the setup of the film. So I could see as that Hollywood or that kind of celebrity tie-in to old Hollywood with the Oklahoma stuff, and Andrew Scott getting snubbed for All of Us Strangers, which is another phenomenal snub that I can't believe from the last couple of years. I think he could be in the mix if Blue Moon's a player. I just don't know if it's going to be. It could be the other Nouvelle Vogue or whatever, the other Linklater film, because that's going to be at Cannes next week. That could be the player for Linklater. I don't know. But Ethan Hawke in a Linklater film based on a popular musical, celebrity tie-in, that one sounds more Oscar-friendly to me. It just sounds that way. I haven't seen any of it. I think it did win a prize at the Berlin Film Festival, which is a great start. It was well received there. I've seen a few reviews on it and nothing negative, but I haven't seen any of it with my own eyes, not even a still or trailer or anything. And then rounding out my 10 would be Lakeith Stanfield for Die My Love. There's actually quite a few like supporting performers or actors in that movie that make my eyebrow go up. Lakeith Stanfield's gotten a couple surprise, I don't know if surprise is the right word, but a couple like come from behind nominations, and they were deserved, but at the same time you go, okay, they really like this guy, and he's a great actor, and he's done a lot of really good stuff, so I'm glad that he has those accolades. But you've got Sissy Spacek in there, you've got Nick Nolte, so if they want to go the old Hollywood route for a supporting actor, they could do that. But I think they're going to stick with a guy that they really like in Lakeith Stanfield, and he has a possibility. Obviously, I don't think it's going to happen right now, but I do think it's in the mix, much like I've said with every single thing I've mentioned today, based on the reception of the film and the performances and how these movies play once they're released and stuff starts to roll in about them. But right now, easily, he's on my radar. All right, and then the last category is just Best Director. I got to go quick because this video is going way too long, and I think I've talked about pretty much all these movies real quick. So I'll just show you my power rankings for director. If I feel like I need to explain myself, I will. Paul Thomas Anderson, already told you. Not taking him out. I don't care. If the movie bombs, nobody likes it, it doesn't make any money, WB says, I'm not even going to tell anybody about it, then okay. But right now, Paul Thomas Anderson is getting nominated. I've also got Ryan Coogler in there for Sinners. Just like with Best Picture, I think that's a pretty surefire thing at this point based on the success of that film. Chloe Zhao, I've got coming back as an Oscar nominee for Hamnet. I told you guys I'm all in on that movie. I also had it in picture, both of the lead categories. I think it's a surefire thing based on that source material and what I know of the premise of that film and the direction and the people involved. I mean, you're easily going to have like costumes, score, cinematography, makeup. I mean, all that shit's going to be on the table. So I'm flabbergasted that more people aren't considering that a top tier player, but maybe I will be the one that's wrong, and I'll adjust that when the time comes. Edward Berger, I'm giving him his nomination for Best Director, at least right now in May. I think it's ridiculous that he didn't get nominated for Conclave or All Quiet when those films received multiple nominations across multiple branches and on the circuit. Got nominated fucking everywhere for everything, and with several wins too. And the guy that's in the chair running that show didn't get nominated. It's just weird, man. It's really weird. Even if you don't like the movies, it's just not something that it's not a good look. So if Ballad of a Small Player is a player, he's got to get nominated for director. They have to know they snubbed him. And by the way, when he missed, that's a definition of a snub, because the pictures are getting lavishly rained down on, and the guy that's making the picture didn't get anything. That's what a snub is, by the way. So they have to know they've done that twice already in recent memory. Probably the same voters. So let's get him in there. I've got him in right now. And then, like I said earlier, I think Guillermo del Toro gets in because he made a movie. They nominated for everything. So if Frankenstein's tone and thematically is kind of like the classic story, and it's like played, similarly to what Eggers did with Nosferatu, and the performances are all in, sure, man. I mean, Del Toro got nominated for a film with a chick having a sexual affair with a fish. I mean, what do you want from me? All right, then I've got some very interesting near misses here. Luca Guadagnino for After the Hunt, because I'm waiting. I'm in the holding pattern, okay? Guadagnino is one of my favorite filmmakers, and he's made literally nothing but bangers. I mean, if you look at his IMDb, it's like a greatest hits, seriously. He is on an unprecedented run right now. But from an Academy version of what they go for, he's in a drought. And even I thought Challengers was Oscar friendly. It was a little hip or whatever, but I thought I was going to get some stuff. Nothing. So I'm at a holding pattern. Is the drought continuing? Are we still waiting for the rain showers to fall? Okay. Or is the flood coming? Here it is. It's After the Hunt. Guadagnino. 10 nominations, whatever. Who knows? John M. Chu, Wicked for Good. I was shocked by the Critics' Choice win. I loved it. I didn't have any problem with it. I was just shocked by it last season. He is not typically the kind of filmmaker, musical-based filmmaker, that they will go for the Academy. But if they treat Wicked as a conglomerate and like a spectacle that it is, and like this is the greatest musical of all, one of the greatest music of all time, and like this is the guy that brought that to life on the screen for both films, then maybe it's a cumulative nomination. I could see it happening. That's why I've got him as a near miss here. Park Chan-wook, I've already told you, I think his moment is coming. I haven't seen No Other Choice, but I hope it's for this one. It sounds like a very interesting premise, and it sounds like it's right up his alley in terms of what he normally does. There's a little hints of revenge mixed into it, but also a little bit of emotionality based on the plot synopsis I've been reading and stuff I've read about it. I do have Mike Flanagan and Josh Safdie rounding out my 10. I thought about Lanthimos. I thought about Trier for sentimental value. They could also be in those 9 and 10 spots. Really, I don't know. Once you get past John M. Chu, I don't feel really great about my argument for any of them because I haven't really seen anything outside of a trailer for The Life of Chuck. So it could go this way. It could go another way. I've heard people comparing Josh Safdie to like a young Martin Scorsese, which when I hear that, I'm like, calm down. Like, what? Like, let's relax, okay? But at the same time, I tell myself, well, maybe they wouldn't be saying that if there weren't some parallels there, some comparisons there. And of course, most filmmakers borrow from the filmmakers they love. So I do see hints of Scorsese's filmmaking in movies like Good Time and Uncut Gems. And this is the first one he's going to be doing on his own, which is also I'm a little reluctant, but I've got him in the mix right now just based on that kind of critical praise I've been hearing. And same thing for Mike Flanagan, who I do feel really good about as a filmmaker, but he always does horror or like gothic, like macabre stuff. This is not that. So that's going to be different for him as a filmmaker. I have the most like confidence in him, but I want to wait and kind of see if it's strong enough for like a Best Director nomination. The same thing I said earlier for Best Picture, honestly. There you go, guys. I am a psychotic human being because I do Oscar predictions way too early and way too often. So this is the first official of my power rankings for the Academy Awards. I've been listening to various podcasts and reading stuff on various trades in Hollywood, and obviously when these trailers come out I watch them, and of course when the movies come out I'll watch them, but I don't go to really any film festivals. I definitely don't go to the Cannes Film Festival. If there's one locally to me, which there used to be annually, and they discontinued it during COVID and it hasn't come back yet. But otherwise, I don't really get to see these movies early unless it's like a week early. But it's not like, months in advance where I can really ponder the possibility of nominations or whatever. So this is a puzzle that we're all putting together throughout the season. I just want to let everybody know that. If you're watching this video or if you come to any of my future predictions videos, please just know that I'm literally going on a hunch for the most part, how I feel. And when it comes to Oscars history, I'm going on the actors, the directors, the studios that may be distributing the films, like stuff that I know bodes well in terms of Academy history. But even that stuff can be wrong, a la The Substance last year and Challengers blanking last year. Those types of things can always be wrong. I still can't believe Sing Sing didn't get a Best Picture nomination. On paper, 6 months before the Academy Awards, everybody and Santa Claus was saying Sing Sing is going to get nominated for Best Picture because it should have. I mean, yes, on merit, but also based on everything we knew about Academy's kind of tradition. So we don't know. We do the best we can. I really do want to appreciate you guys for tuning in, though. I'm going to do these power rankings at a minimum of once per month. So you will get at least one power ranking per month from me, and it's going to be more frequent. And I'll be updating the list and moving people up and down as we get further and further into award season. And of course, as other shows start to hand out awards and I start to see all the movies and it gets more intense, believe me, it almost becomes weekly at that point. When we get to like December, it's like weekly. But until then, it'll be monthly, perhaps bi-monthly if some crazy shit happens like at the Cannes Film Festival. So if you're tuning into this and you like that stuff, make sure you subscribe. If you're a regular to the channel, maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but I have channel memberships open. So if you like me out here in the garage drinking beers, talking about movies and what awards they're going to win or probably not win, then consider becoming a member. I mean, it's like $3 a month. It would mean the world to me, and it helps me kind of put on this whole thing I'm doing here. Just click join down below. You guys are the best. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know in the comments Who did I leave off? I know you guys are already typing as I'm saying this. What movies did I leave off? What performances did I leave off that you think are very, very good chances to get nominated for Academy Awards? Let me know, because honestly, I scroll through those too. And I kind of make a pool of all these names, and then I kind of weigh it against my own hunches, and who knows? Maybe it'll be in my predictions in June. We'll see. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you out here next time in the garage. Tell you about a quick contest I'm running on this channel. All you have to do is subscribe to my channel and be a public subscriber. The contest is going to run through May 31st, and I will randomly draw one of my public subscribers. Just make sure you comment on this video or any of my videos between now and the end of May that you have subscribed, so that I can add your username to the list. We're going to be giving away a canvas poster of the Oscar-winning ANORA, featuring, of course, Mikey Madison. There you see the image. It will be a standard 24 by 36 official movie poster size, stretched onto canvas and ready to hang on your wall or in the strip club that you own. Make sure you subscribe to enter the contest. That's literally all you have to do. Comment on this video or any future videos between now and May 31st, 2025, and I will give away this beautiful canvas poster of ANORA.